Hola, hola. I'm Dyani Leal, and this channel is brought to you by Dyani Investment Realty based out of Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Today, I want to talk a little bit about my news, which I'm very excited to share, that I've recently joined EXP, a global brokerage that is revolutionizing the real estate industry. But also, I just want to talk a little bit about my journey as a real estate agent in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, and share a little bit more information about myself and my experience here. And I'm really interested to hear what you think about it in the comments. So please feel free to share your perspective. So, my perspective is a little bit different because I'm an American and I was born and raised in the United States. But I also lived in Nicaragua for about a decade prior to moving to Puerto Vallarta, where I've lived for 7 years. So most of my adult life I've spent in Latin America. Also, I am not coming from the real estate industry. I'm coming from the nonprofit industry. I started an NGO in Nicaragua in 2009. So about 10 years after I founded it, the organization is functioning and I was able to exit. And I made the decision to transition out of the nonprofit industry. There's more information about this on the About Me video, which is pinned to my bio. But I just want to share a little bit about myself and my perspective coming into this. So every brokerage I've been part of in my real estate journey has been really an amazing experience. I've met some incredible people. I've learned so much, and it's really just been eye-opening for me in learning about the industry and in immersing myself with the profession. So the first brokerage I joined, the broker was on the verge of retirement. And so there was a transition in leadership and a lot of people were changing and leaving. And I wound up leaving as well with the leader of my team that I was on at the time. And we followed them to open their own brokerage. So this was exciting. But what I soon learned was it wasn't maybe the type of brokerage that I would have chosen to join if it had already been developed. And it wasn't really that great of a fit. So I decided to move on. And the third brokerage that I became part of is pretty much very well established. So I was with one that was on the way out, one that was on the way in, and then one that is in the peak of its growth, extremely well run, managed. The brokers are very available. Everybody's ready to help. Lots of teamwork, lots of dynamic, very community oriented. It was a really great place, and I was extremely impressed with the way it was run. However, I didn't really last there that long either. There were a couple different reasons why I didn't really feel like I was able to adapt to any of these brokerages. One big one is that as somebody who managed large amounts of staff, one thing I was really clear on is that with an independent contract, you cannot demand people's time. You can ask them for lists of obligations or deliverables, and that is the understanding. But if you're not going to be paying salary, you can't really ask people to be present at a specific time or to be exclusively committed to you. So I was pretty surprised that the expectation at these brokerages is that you're just constantly available and you're basically a full-time employee. Now, I probably don't think I would do that well as a full-time employee after being self-employed for my entire life, but maybe I could comply with the standards of being a full-time employee if I was getting paid a salary and that was my incentive, right? I would imagine that would be the idea, at least. But without any sort of full salary and everything being completely commission-based, no fixed income, and then the expectation to be full-time committed to these companies, it was just something that didn't sit well with me. And I'm going to be honest about that because I don't think a lot of people talk about it, but I really was surprised and I was actually disappointed by that expectation. So just for a couple examples, I am a mom and my husband works abroad for the majority of the year. So I actually spend most of the time solo parenting my kids. Now, the difference between the terms solo parenting and single parenting is that I have the emotional and financial support of my spouse. So it's not really similar to single parenting, and it's not nearly as challenging as that circumstance. However, logistically, it's very similar in the way that I'm the only one with my kids all the time. We have two kids. One, my son, Yasiel, who is 6 years old, and my daughter, Milana, who's 4 years old. When they were babies, we had a full-time nanny, which is a huge perk of living in Mexico, to be able to afford a full-time nanny and have that be an accessible thing for a family like ours who has a lot of needs when it comes to logistics of raising our kids, and to take a little bit of the pressure off of me. However, as my kids started to get older and start school, the need for the full-time nanny dissipated. It became more of a part-time need. And then I realized that I didn't actually want it to be a part-time need, if that makes any sense. All I want is to be with my kids after school. I miss them when they're gone all day. I want to be able to raise them. And I feel like every incident, as they start to grow as real human beings and people, becomes an opportunity to instill values, whether it's intentional or not. And frankly, I didn't really want somebody else instilling values in my kids. It's not my husband or me. So I made a very conscious choice to no longer have a employee that took care of my kids. And really, it doesn't affect my work that much. I wake up around 5 a.m. I get my best stuff done in the morning before the kids wake up. And they do a little after school program, and they're in school from 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. There's a lot I can do. And even when I get home, I can do a lot of things remotely. I can have calls with my clients, and I've even can bring my kids along with me once in a while to showings or other things if need be. And if it's an absolute urgent thing, I can definitely look for a sitter. However, there's been more than one occasion with these brokerages where I wasn't available at after school hours, and then I was penalized by the agencies. And so this happened at basically every single one that I worked at. And so I started to realize it wasn't the brokerage itself, it was the system. And that my expectation is that I needed to be available after school hours and hire a babysitter to take care of my kids. And it just wasn't something I was willing to do. So I made the choice to leave the standard brokerage and to join EXP. And another really interesting thing is that I'm very passionate about my brand. I really love the ability to create a brand and build a brand, and I understand how important that is to growing a business. And I found at these boutique brokerages that were independently owned and run that it was not necessarily openly discouraged, but it wasn't encouraged either. And it's really important to me to be able to freely build my brand with pride and work really hard at it and feel like I'm doing the right thing and not that I'm doing something wrong or that's not allowed. So I was extremely excited when I found out that EXP is here in Mexico. And I'd already seen a lot about it on various Instagram channels of people that are real estate agents that I follow that talk a lot about EXP and the benefits of it. And a lot of them are moms. So obviously I'm attracted to their lifestyles, and they say that they choose to be with their families, that they would prefer to work hours during the day and be with their families in the evening and be with their kids and spend time with their kids. And that not every brokerage you have the need or the expectation to go be in the office full time or to pursue leads heavily with cold calling, and there could be more of a focus on digital marketing and a lot of focus on remote work. EXP is a completely cloud-based brokerage, and a lot of the times when I was being expected to come in for a meeting, I would say, can't we do this on Zoom? I can do that easily from the comfort of my own home. And I was told that no, you cannot do that. So I was very excited to learn about this opportunity that I can actually join a cloud-based brokerage and do everything virtually. The other huge perk for me is that EXP really encourages personal branding, and they make the use of their brand completely optional, which I really like. It doesn't pressure you to use it. It should provide leverage if you choose to use it. And that's part of what is a perk of being part of a brokerage, is that you can leverage their global brand. But it can be confusing when you're using your brand and then you have to use someone else's brand if it's obligatory. A lot of times I would prefer to draw the attention to my brand so I can successfully build my brand. So anyway, this has been my experience with brokerages and being part of them. And I was a little bit disappointed, but I also understand that a lot of people really like that sense of community. A lot of people really like that teamwork, and they want to be part of it, the office environment. They want to go in person. And in that case, I think that these brokerages, a lot of them are really incredible and they're really great places to foster a sense of community. However, I'm really grateful that I've had the opportunity to join EXP. I'm grateful for all the opportunities that it provides. And I will do a little bit more of an informative video about EXP and all of the benefits it offers, including the revenue share program and stock options and the commission splits for agents. However, right now, I just wanted to talk a little bit about my story and really how excited I am about being part of a brokerage that leaves room for growth and that supports my goals and that allows me to prioritize my family. And that's really important to me. So thank you so much. If you made it this far and you watched my whole story, please make sure to like the video and subscribe if you haven't yet. And also leave a comment because I really want to hear your perspective. As always, thank you so much for tuning in and reach out to me anytime.